Pokking the collective head above 500 for the first time isn't much of a cause to celebrate anything. Moving within a point, the outer edge of the Eastern Conference playoff picture, also not a celebratory event. Running up the score a little bit on the Flyers? Yeah, let's at least talk about that one. Good morning to you. Good Tuesday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Penguins. It comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into football and or baseball, I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Pirates in the same place that you found this. Penguins 7, Flyers 3. Not really as lopsided or loose as that might sound. This was defined for the better part of 2 periods by awful goaltending at both ends. Tristan Jarry at one end, Sam Ersson at the other, barely distinguishable. First period, the Penguins dominated, and I'm talking about tic-tac-toe stuff for the 4 goals that they put behind Ersson. The Flyers came back in a big way, really, in the second period, and not just because Jarry looked like he was determined to get them back into this. They also did most of the creating while at the same time tightening up a little bit in front of Ersson, and they did it. They got it done. The Penguins did. They got the result that they were looking for, and when I went around that locker room afterward, man, they all mentioned how important this felt, not because of the standings, not because of the rivalry or anything like that, although that came up parenthetically. It was about the break, the Christmas break, the NHL's 4-day, everybody shuts everything down event that nobody wanted to drag home with them. Listen to Ryan Graves, for example, when I brought up what this meant.
It's a big one. Standings-wise, it's huge. We're really clawing back into the race here after a rocky start. So points are huge. Points against division teams are even bigger. So it's always nice to go into the break.
You're feeling it in here too, aren't you?
Yeah, it's nice. Well, I mean, when you're winning, vibes are good. Vibes were tough start of the year. You know, like you got high expectations for this group. Maybe outside the room they don't, but we do inside, and we believe in ourselves. So rocky start, you're not thrilled with that, so it's nice to be stringing some wins together and to be clawing back into it. And we want to be playing meaningful hockey at the end of the year, and you got to be able to win. The games before break are tough, the games after the break are tough, and we're playing division teams, so you got to be on your game.
Everyone from Sidney Crosby on down, everyone had some version of the break as their main motivation. And you know what? Whatever. Who are we to discuss or debate why they'd come out and perform the way they did? Because if you think about it, and Graves intimated this as well in what you just heard, the underlying theme here is that they're back. I mean, I think they're back, or I don't even know if back would be the right term because they haven't been contenders for a while now. And they are, of course, no such thing while sitting even a point out of a playoff picture. But the trajectory, the arrow, is very much pointed upward, and it has been for what now, nearly a month? And there have even been occasions where, like the first period of this game, and like a handful of others, you think to yourself, wow, they still got some dudes. They still got some people who can make elite plays. Sid had 3 assists, tying Mario Lemieux on the all-time franchise list, by the way, in addition to an empty net goal, but he was just dishing everywhere, and he wasn't alone. There were elite, I'm going to use that word again, passes made by Brian Rust, by Ricard Raquel. How about Yevgeny Malkin's backhand dish to Michael Bunting for what I feel to this moment was the goal of the year for this team? Not necessarily goal of the year in terms of highlight quality or whatever. Bunting just got it and let her rip, beating Ersson short side with a slap shot. I mean goal of the year in the sense that the Flyers had come back within 4-3. Second period was about to end, and all you're thinking is, wow, you got to get through a whole third period here of Jarry trying to protect a lead. Raquel told me that bunting goal was just huge. That was his term. He said the Penguins went into the room and gathered themselves and talked about how much they'd have to, counter what the Flyers had just done, which is tighten and push back. To their credit, they did that. The Flyers didn't have a shot on goal through the first 8 minutes of the third period. I mean, look, I was there, okay? I was there for the first few weeks too. We all were. And I have a feeling that the scars from that are going to be felt for a while, if not through the rest of the season. And I think it's fair for people who follow this team, especially those who follow it most passionately, to not take too seriously what it is that they're witnessing. But I feel it's equally fair to consider what a couple of players, and Mike Sullivan, incidentally, brought up after this one, which was they feel like one of the things that they were able to do successfully as a hockey team, including players, coaches, everybody, was to block out a lot of the early criticism. Now, they're not bringing up whether or not that criticism was fair. I would argue it most certainly was. But Sullivan's not above using the media as some sort of enemy. At one point last night in his press conference, he clarified that when he was talking about outside noise or outside criticism, he said started by you guys, meaning media, meaning all of us sitting in that room. Or some of us. Or I don't know. I don't care about that stuff. If he uses it and it's an effective tool, great for him. Great for them. If they buy it, and if they believe that they're better than they were earlier this season, so much the better. This team is beginning to do good things on a consistent basis. That's not just the goals. That's not just the freaky high shooting percentage of late, which is due to come down to earth. It's about defending when they really turn it on. Did you see the big plays defensively that Gino made in the third period? How about Sid blocking a shot on his way to that empty netter? Well, if those two guys are doing it, who's going to be exempt? And good for them. Good for them. All of this, I'm not going to lie. A handful of weeks ago, I was wondering what the heck was even going to be potentially useful out of this season. And now, the Penguins are one really smart goaltending decision away from being a pretty nice team. When we come back, J1Q. This episode is brought to you by Bet Online, your number one source for all your summer sports needs this season, from Major League Baseball, golf, NHL, NBA playoffs. Get the latest odds and lines, including all team matchups, player props, odds on just about everything that's out there. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Bet Online, where the game starts.
Abandon ship, Bob. Sell the team. Are you a Pirates fan who is angry or apathetic about our perennial losing baseball team? Do you feel helpless because you don't know how to make a difference? Well, good news. We have something you can do about it. Join our Sell the Team movement. We're a group of passionate fans voicing our frustration and demanding change through billboard campaigns, press outreach, protests, and involvement at local city government meetings. Go to ourteamnothis.com to get involved.
Today's J1Q comes from David, who says, DK, I know it seems like low-hanging fruit to criticize Tristan Jarry in the setting of a win, but he really doesn't pass the eye test as a number one goaltender. When the Penguins win with him in net, it feels like a win with a backup, where the win is not because of the goaltender, but more because of the team stepping it up in front of him. Regardless, a win is a win, and I guess we should take it, right? Happy holidays to everyone. Same right back to you, David. I'm through coming up with any sort of mixed messages about Jarry. I'm through waiting on Jarry as if he's some sort of precious prospect who's so tantalizingly talented that you have to tiptoe in any assessment. He is exactly what he is. He's almost 30. He's not good. And he is especially prone to specific situations that don't exactly lend themselves to long-term hockey success. This thing about giving up a goal on your first 5 shots, it's not just an amusing statistic. It's a real problem. This thing about giving up goals right after your team scores one, that's not cute either. That's a real problem. This thing about not being able to hold leads, even big leads, and watching Sean Couturier come skating down the left side, flicking a puck in Jarry's direction that had no business being anything, never mind a goal. It shouldn't even have amounted to a decent rebound for another teammate. The reason that Couturier takes the shot is something that just might have sneaked through Couturier's own words after this game when he was asked about what the Flyers discussed in their room at the first intermission, and he said, "We felt like we could come back in this one." Now, you can interpret that a bunch of different ways, obviously, but they were down 4-1, and they'd been getting schooled for 20 straight minutes. Why would you think that? Same reason you would take that shot. Because they know, and the Penguins know, and the people running the Penguins know. But I can't be convinced that there's a higher motivation in starting Jarry time after time after time than to try to build up some kind of trade market for him so they can find somebody dumb enough to take him off their hands. I don't believe that's going to happen. I don't believe anything that he'd do from this point forward would override what we've seen already. And besides all that, is being able to dump Jarry's contract really more important to this franchise than making the playoffs? Is it really? Because I gotta tell you, that's kind of what it feels like. I'd love to be wrong on that, but that's kind of what it feels like. And that's not okay. I'm not suggesting this team's, Stanley Cup worthy or anything ridiculous like that. I am saying that there's a lot more to be gained from making the playoffs than there is in saving a little bit of additional cap space or general manager embarrassment. Because it was Kyle Dubas who signed Jarry to this contract, and I don't care. I don't care about either one of those things. The Penguins need to get back to the playoffs. The Penguins are telling you on an almost nightly basis now that they want to get back to the playoffs. Do the right thing. Find a way to give up on this guy. Get Yoel Blomqvist up here. Let Blomqvist and Alex Nedeljkovic figure out something between them. Meaning, of course, whatever rhythm would happen to be established there, and that's almost always determined by performance. And proceed. And have your team be able to breathe after it gets a 4-1 lead. And I mean breathe in a healthy way, not get relaxed. Anybody who was in that building last night knows what I'm talking about. Knows what that place felt like until Michael Bunting's second goal made it 5-3. Everybody knows. Everybody. That includes the people running the hockey team, and they need to start thinking better of it. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Penguins. We're going to be back with another one on Thursday, taking a couple of days off for you know what, and Merry Christmas to everybody and all that other sappy stuff.